Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Moms, are you ready to become enlightened, empowered, and stress-free? Well, get ready because you are about to tune into vibrant, powerful moms helping everyday women create an extraordinary life with Debbie Pokornik. Each week, Debbie discusses topics to help you become self-aware, inspired, and on track to create the life you crave. It's time to stop settling and start thriving. And it all begins now on Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show. I'm your host, Debbie Pokornik, and my mission is to help you create a life you love at work, at home, and at play. This summer, I've been doing a podcast series covering my book, Break Free of Parenting Pressures. Today, we are in the middle of Chapter 7, talking about structure, boundaries, these kinds of things. And so if you are someone who prefers to read a book in order, then you might want to head back to at least the last episode or even to the beginning of June 2019, which is when I started doing these readings, and start from there. But if you don't mind going out of order, I think you'll find that it all fits in and makes sense and stands just fine on its own. Whatever you decide, I'm optimistic you will enjoy the reading. And if it's not your thing, I hope you'll return to my show in the fall when I'll likely switch back to my regular format of interviews and other timely material. So without further ado, we will continue. Break free of parenting pressures, embrace your natural guidance. Chapter 7, Creating Structure. Children need limits. It provides structure and helps to make their world predictable, understandable, and secure. By setting limits for our kids, we guide them towards acceptable behavior while allowing them room to grow and make mistakes. This helps them become self-confident, resilient human beings. Why boundaries are important. Boundaries are the outside limits, a bottom line that provides a border for what's acceptable versus what is not. If you picture a country, their boundaries or borders let people know where that country's authority begins and ends. They will make rules and guidelines about who may cross their borders and what people who are within their boundaries are allowed to do. You will find huge variations in how strongly these borders are enforced and how clearly the boundaries are defined, but the boundaries themselves will always be there. Every unit of life has its boundaries. Individuals, couples, families, schools, organizations, communities, cities, countries, etc., etc. These boundaries fit with each unit's overriding values and are put in place to support those beliefs. They define the non-negotiable, the bottom line that a person may not cross without serious consequences occurring. A child who disrespects boundaries might find herself expelled from school, clubs, or even her home. A citizen of a country who disrespects boundaries might find himself locked up, exiled, or executed as a result. It is important for us to become aware of our actual boundaries so we can be sure we are enforcing what's really important to us. If a teenager striking his mother will result in eviction from the home, it's a family boundary, then a family would be well advised to have rules, guidelines, and teaching methods about hitting, self-control, and respect for women. If we want our daughter to have a strong sense of herself as an individual, which is a personal boundary, we must model assertiveness, teach her about positive relationships, and limit our desire to question her every move. Our boundaries are part of us, whether we are aware of them or not. Figuring out our bottom line behaviors allows us to be clear about what we are enforcing and why. Working within our boundaries. Personal boundaries mostly apply to activities that involve our bodies: eating, bathing, touching, sleeping. These boundaries are non-existent when we are born, since babies rely on others to do everything for them, but slowly build up as the individual gains mastery over her self-care. As she grows, her personal boundaries expand to include a need for privacy and personal decision-making, allowing her to decide the path she will choose in life. By the time she is an adult, these boundaries provide her with an understanding of what she will and will not tolerate from both herself and others. Personal boundaries for our children begin with giving our child as much individual control as seems reasonable, given her age and so on, and fit within the family guidelines that we've set out. For example, our family boundary might be about being healthy. So we teach our child she needs to eat vegetables. We honor her personal boundary by letting her choose the kind of vegetables to eat and how much. If instead we force her to eat something that makes her gag, like cooked peas for me, or to eat everything on her plate, we are telling her not to listen to her body's cues, but instead to pay attention only to us. There are two problems with this. Number one, we are telling her we know better than her natural guidance system. We cannot know what is going on for her body, so in reality, we are misleading her. Number two, personal boundaries and our natural guidance system direct us in making important decisions throughout our lives. If we insist on overriding these systems, what will our child do when we're not there to guide her? One of the best ways to teach respect for personal boundaries is to model it. Privacy is a boundary that can easily be overlooked in a family environment. Reading diaries, searching drawers, checking through school bags all fall into this category. If we want our kids to clearly understand our off-limit areas, like our purse, wallet, or secret drawer, then we must teach it by respecting their space as well. Many parents question their children, especially teenagers, to help keep them safe, but what they are really doing is crossing the privacy line and sending a message of distrust. Trust and respect for personal space are extremely important boundaries for all of us. Our family boundaries tend to support our personal limits in a way that everyone in the family can live with. Typically, a family will have only a few boundaries or bottom line behaviors, as they encompass main values that rarely change over time. Consider the following examples. Safety is a priority in our family. Healthy living is important to us and is reflected in the majority of our behaviors. And in this house, we treat everyone with respect and kindness. The rules are what we put in place to support these ideas. Often a general rule can be put in place to support the boundary with something more specific created as required. We do not need or want to have rules for every little thing, just a few to support the main idea. Examples of rules supporting a boundary are: the boundary is safety is a priority in our family. The general rule might be appropriate safety gear will be worn and used, and the specific rule might be children wear life jackets when playing on the dock. General rules allow a family space to maneuver, while the specific rule clearly spells things out. In this family, a child would know that playing on the dock without a life jacket will result in a consequence, like having to go inside. This rule doesn't mean he can't negotiate other things, like taking off his life jacket to jump off the dock when an adult is present. The general rule transfers to many situations, like biking, rollerblading, snowboarding, while the specific rule applies only to the water. Most children will not thank us for our rules and will test them, whine about them, and try to talk us out of them. What they should be clear on, however, is our boundaries and why these principles are in place. With this done, we parents can cling to the knowledge that these boundaries are creating structure for our children that will allow them to go out in the world and thrive. Free parenting tip: boundaries and the rules that support them provide limits and structure that help our kids feel safe and cared for. Mutual respect, a sense of belonging, and trust all grow out of clear boundaries. Family meetings. Family meetings provide an opportunity for everyone to give input into the functioning of their family home. It is a great forum for sharing expectations, brainstorming household rules, and dealing with discipline issues that apply to everyone. Here is one way of setting up a family meeting. What's essential is that you have some sort of structure. So, for example, rules about being open-minded and supportive, so that people recognize that this is important. It does not need to be formal or even regular, but it does need to be taken seriously. Everyone should leave these meetings with an understanding of what was decided and how the decisions may affect them. When people are involved in creating a plan, they are more likely to support it. So here's some ideas that you might include in a family meeting. If meetings will be a common practice in your home, dedicate a regular time for them and do your best to keep to it. Be sure to keep meetings short. Half an hour is usually the max for kids 12 and under. Even 15 minutes is good. Have a list posted so anyone can jot ideas down for the next meeting. Plan the times, as in set up a flexible agenda for how the time will look. So in ours, for example, we used a check-in, then we had an opportunity for concerns. If we needed to, we'd talk about the chore schedule, and then we'd always end with a fun activity. Take turns at the different roles. So even a young child can be in charge of something like planning the fun activity, setting up the space, or going and getting the list off the fridge. Limit complaint time. It seems that no matter how positive we try to be, complaining is something that everyone insists on doing at meetings. So use creativity to ensure this need is met without allowing it to take over. One idea is to allow each person 1 minute to voice a complaint. The group then takes 2 minutes to come up with a resolution. Make a rule that complaints can take up no more than 10% of the total meeting time. Sometimes just acknowledging the complaints is really all that's required. Have someone take notes to remind everyone what they agreed upon. Do what you agreed to do. If you said you would find more time to play together, do that. If your child agrees that she will walk the dog nightly and then fails to do so, remind her about what she promised. Just be careful not to nag. If she's not doing her task, put it back on the list to discuss at the next meeting or enforce the agreed upon consequence. Finally, take time for fun. Whenever possible, set aside time after the meeting to have some fun. Give compliments, play a game, go for a walk together. Make it something your family enjoys, and you'll find that they look forward to the next meeting. Bullying, a dishonorable mention. Few things will bring out the mother bear in us, even for fathers, like finding out that someone has threatened our cub. I don't mean threats like, you better bring that note by Monday or I'm phoning your mom, although that can certainly set us off too. I mean the type of threat that shakes your child's sense of safety and rocks his secure little world. Like, give me your lunch money or you'll be drinking from the toilet. I'm talking about threats that come from people who intend harm and have the power, or at least the perceived power, to follow through. I'm talking about bullying. So what can we do to help our child when this happens? First, we need to get our mother bear instinct under control. Yes, we need to help our kids, but we aren't doing any favors by taking over the situation. If we truly want to help them and have a positive impact on their development as self, we have to control our impulse to start roaring and bashing heads in, that's figuratively, of course, and focus on developing a plan. So the plan. Step 1, listen. It's important to understand that anytime our kids come to us with a story to share, they are asking us to really hear them. A great way to do this is by using tools like empathic listening, which I'm actually going to share with you in a later recording of this podcast. With empathic listening, we focus on understanding what the child is feeling, then use that information to connect with him. So you might say something like, "It sounds like you're pretty frustrated. I can understand that." The goal is to make sure we hear what our child is saying without reacting and taking over the conversation. Remember, our child is likely afraid and possibly embarrassed because he's afraid. Making it easy for him to talk to us by being a good listener is the least we can do. To do this effectively, we must avoid doing certain things, such as making jokes to lighten the mood, defending the bully, overreacting. All of these are things that many of us do quite commonly. Step 2, give reassurance. The second thing our kids need when they tell us about bullying is to hear that the way they are being treated is not okay. They are in no way deserving of this kind of treatment. So telling them you understand there's nothing wrong with you. It's her and her gang who are the problem here. If your child argues this point, let her vent without you agreeing or disagreeing. If your facial expressions and body language show support and understanding, words are not required. A simple, "I see," or can be enough. Step 3, encourage inner strength. Our kids need to be told through both our actions and our words that while bullying is not okay, they, our kids, are strong enough, smart enough, and resilient enough to handle it. This is critical. If we take over the battle for them, the message they receive is, "You're not capable of handling this. I better do it for you." This is a problem because it suggests our child is weak and incapable of dealing with challenging situations. More to the point, what will happen when you're not there to protect them? People who believe problems are too big to handle feel helpless, not resilient. Step 4, empower and support. Our goal is to support our child while helping him believe in his own strength and ability. What we do at this point is going to have the greatest impact on our child's sense of ability and self-worth. If we take away his power by trying to fix things for him, we might be doing as much harm as the bully. If instead we empower our child by brainstorming constructive ways to handle the situation, helping him access resources, and when necessary, advocating on his behalf, he will come out feeling stronger and more capable than when the situation began. Bullies will come and go throughout our lives, and for that they get a dishonorable mention. When these unpleasant situations arise, our children will look to us to figure out how capable or incapable they are to deal with it. If we want our message to strengthen them and let them know they are capable of handling whatever life throws their way, our actions had better back it up. Free parenting tip. Our kids need us to listen to them, give them support, and help them learn skills to protect themselves in bullying situations. Resilient kids are those who are empowered and taught positive ways to stand up for themselves. Now, I have done podcasts on bullying alone, and I've covered it in quite extensively in different videos. Mother's Day last year, so 2018 May, I did a whole video series which you can find on Facebook and also on my website at vibrantpowerfulmoms.com. And it covers this in a lot more detail because I get it. I know this is a really hot topic and a hard one for us as parents to hear. We often want more information. Another place you can go for more information is a website called bullies2buddies.com, and that's the number 2 in the middle. And it's Izzy Kelman's website. And I enjoyed reading his stuff. I learned a lot from it back many years ago. And I really, truly believe that if you want to teach your child, one of the first things you need to do is believe in them. So, in the book, I now include an exercise about making the rules. And this is actually another topic that I have done a long podcast on, setting boundaries, understanding rules and boundaries. And so I will put a link to that on my Vibrant Powerful Moms page as well. On the blog, for this page. And so you can go and check that out if you want more information and if you want ideas to follow. What's important is that you recognize that your boundaries need to be really, really clear to your family. And then from that, you just want to come up with, okay, so what are the rules? What is it that I'm doing right now? How am I enforcing this with my child? And what are they learning from it? Because ultimately, that's what it really comes down to, is what are they learning and how do I make sure they are truly getting the message that I want them to pick up? So that concludes chapter 7, and with it, part 2 of the book. Next week, I'll delve into part 3, which is all about your parenting pack. But to end off today, I'd like to give you an update on how things have changed since I wrote the book in 2010. I did this at the end of part 1 as well, so you're welcome to go back and listen to that one if you didn't get enough of an update there. Now, I already mentioned that my kids are now adults. They're 25 and nearly 23. That I have 2 boys who have grown into men that I love spending time with. And that my husband and I are still happily together and have moved from Manitoba, Canada to Atlanta, Georgia. What I'd like to share with you today is that since writing Break Free, I've delved a lot deeper into many of the topics that I speak on. To me, it's like this book barely scratches the surface of some of these areas. So if you're feeling that way, I hear you and I agree. That's why I always mention that I'll include links on my blog to other resources I've created on many of the topics. Like, for example, for today's show, I'll include a link on my vibrantpowerfulmoms.com blog to my video series from May 2018 on bullying, where I go much more deeply into this topic. So if you are a parent dealing with your child being bullied, you'll get more than the 5 minutes or less that we just spent on it, and can use it to really, truly help you. One of the areas I've learned a lot more about that kind of surprises me in a way is on the things that make us tick. If you had asked me back when I wrote the book if this information would change, I would have said no, and that would have been true. At the same time, however, I'm not sure I realized that as with anything we uncover in life, there are always layers and layers that just when you think you're fully understanding something, some new information will arise to show you that there's so much more you could delve into. So since writing about personality, communication modes, and so on that I talked about at the beginning of part 2, I've dabbled now in numerology, astrology, Akashic records, human design, and my recent favorite, if I'm just naming a few of them here, but my really big one right now is the gene keys. Now, each one of these things teaches me more about people, especially myself, and it really helps me to understand that nature-nurture discussion on a whole different level. Now, I don't have time to share much on these today, but let me just illustrate what this information does with a couple snippets from my human design profile. Now, human design teaches me about my natural self, my perspective on life, how I go about things, how I relate to others, and how the world relates to me. I've learned from this that I am a manifesting generator, which means I need to feel into things and see how they resonate when I'm introduced to an idea. And then I have to do it again after I start into it to make sure that it's still resonating. In other words, my gut feeling, my intuition, my inner wisdom, which of course are all topics that I love to talk about, is truly a big guiding force in my life and a very big deal for me to acknowledge and be aware of. Now, I also learned that I'm constantly seeking a deeper meaning in life, which can result in my changing course often and confusing those around me. As a result, effective communication skills are a must, along with trusting others enough to be super transparent with them. This is a key piece for my relationship with my husband because all he sees is me starting something new and then changing my mind about it. And it can make me seem really flaky and uncertain. If I'm not able to articulate or share what's going on for me, I would just drive him even crazier than I probably already do. At least this way, I don't take it personally. Instead, I go into a mode of really trying to explain it in a way he can understand. So why do I share this? Because I'm always looking for confirmation that what I'm doing in life matters, that I'm aligned with my purpose in the world and am truly living the life I've come here to live. I cannot help anybody else live an extraordinary life if I'm not doing that myself. I'm guessing the same is true for many, if not all of my listeners, that you too want to be living on purpose, aligned with who you really are. So I believe that I owe it to you to share what I'm uncovering. So imagine my delight at reading about my channels in human design and being told that you are here opening doorways to new ways of expressing and appreciating life. So novel might be your expressions that your audiences and even you might wonder where your insights came from. When you are speaking from a clear place of personal inner acceptance and assurance, you are empowering people in the world around you to resonate with their true nature. You are bringing things back into alignment. Now, if you're new to my show, you might not realize that this perfectly describes what Vibrant Powerful Moms is all about. A platform where I openly share the things I have been uncovering and how I've applied them to my life. I like to think I'm very transparent in that. It's my hope that as you listen to my shows, including the readings from my book, you won't be afraid to dive into the information yourself. Feel into how it can apply to your world, whether you're raising kids at the moment or not. And then use your own creativity to figure out how to dig into the next layer. There is so much more to life than any book or podcast could ever contain. They are simply a launching pad meant to remind, align, validate, enlighten, or whatever you happen to need in the moment to get you discovering on your own. With much respect for you and the journey you are on, this is Debbie Pokornik wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.
You've been listening to Vibrant Powerful Moms with host Debbie Pokornik. If you enjoyed this show, please give us a shout out and let us know what you loved. Visit vibrantpowerfulmoms.com to find out more about Debbie and her sisterhood of Vibrant Powerful Moms.